It's a little early for this, but here we go.
What?
No, that's a monster.
Okay.
I like that sound.
Come on, what's wrong with you guys? What would make you think something like that?
Hey, I'm not judging.
Let's see, it still has it as, there we go. Okay. All right, so now we can hear,
Okay.
I'm going to turn the audio on my other screen down because that will drive us insane.
Right?
But yes, it is in fact live and I can see
Yay.
my face up there a little bit. So I'll shut up.
And for anyone who might be listening already, we will be going live here shortly and in about a minute. So stay tuned.
Okay, I will send a tweet with the link to YouTube.
All right. So yeah, live chat is up. And I'll share actually, just in case if folks want to share.
That's right. Lisa's moving into her new place. That's cool.
Good morning, Jen.
Hi.
All right. Well, it's officially 9 o'clock. I'm not sure that we're actually going to kick off until we have some regular audience members in the room. It's just right now, it's just us. It's just the just the hosts and folks, so, and presenter. So
That's all right. Yeah, I was talking to Sonia that if we have a big drop off or anything, that we can actually contact people in person later on. At least I'm interested in doing that. So there's just a lot of quirks and stuff, and it can wear people out.
Wait, it's 9:01. Who's kicking us off this morning?
So technically, I just did.
Oh,
But what I also said was, since it's just the hosts and presenter in the room, I don't know that we.
yeah,
I
but
think we might wait for a second, or do you want to just go into? Do you want to go into the stuff?
we're live on YouTube, so let's do it, man. Let's do this 1 million cups thing.
Well, in that case, so I'll just say hello and good morning. It's Wednesday. That's Entrepreneurial Wednesday. It's 1 million cups going on around the country. All of us online. We're thankful for having the opportunity to get together with other entrepreneurs and other people who support entrepreneurs in the Albuquerque community and beyond. Let's see, 1 million cups is a program from the Kauffman Foundation. I'll be sharing some more information later. They just signed on or just shared some information about how local communities can support legislation that supports entrepreneurs across the United States in this time. But it's, 1 million cups is a program from the Kauffman Foundation, basically intended to bring entrepreneurs together, share their stories, and help promote entrepreneurship throughout the United States. We are thankful to our sponsors, can't do it without them. Even though we're live and distributed, we still love and care them. So I will thank the good folks at Fat Pipe. Our hosts, we can't wait until we get back to Fat Pipe and can do our stuff there. We want to thank Jason Collin Photography. We want to thank Charles and TuneIn ABQ. We want to thank Noventum Custom Software, Loza and Loza Intellectual Property Attorneys. We'll drop a link in the Zoom a little bit later. We've got Adam and Sparks Flow, and we've also got hey, Adam. We've also got More Than Organized with Miriam Ortiz-Pino, who typically joins us a little bit later on. But that's kind of the basic stuff. Oh, yeah, here we are. Here are the faces. Let's let's see. We have no donuts this morning, so I'm thinking before we get into the actual introduction, I wanted to, yes, Jennifer was kind enough not to sponsor the donuts this morning. It's and by sponsor the donuts, I mean there's the opportunity to hear like a squeak.
Ew.
So and let's see. I think that perhaps we as organizers should, since we have a moment here. My name is Eric Renz Whitmore. I work for an organization called Forward Cities, and we work across the country with different communities to help build more inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystems. Who else from the organizing team wants to say a word or two?
I'm Charles Garrison. I own a marketing agency in Albuquerque called X10 Marketing and a podcast called Tune In ABQ.
Awesome.
I'm Paul Sauter, Chief Scientific Officer of Equiseek.
Adam, why don't you go next, and then we'll have kick into Sonia so she can go in and introduce.
You have to unmute yourself. Do you know where that is? Well, okay, so Adam
So
Sparks.
that is,
Oh, there he
Okay.
goes.
Sorry. I was switching around trying to find a couple things, and in the process,
Okay,
lost
but
my
you're
window.
you're introducing yourself now.
Yes. Anyway, yes, I'm Adam Sparks Brechtel with Sparks Flow. I help family businesses or meaningfully adapt to the current situation. So and I get to sometimes do the video, but since everyone's doing the video this time, that's not what I'm focusing on.
All right, and I am Sonia Doing. I am co-lead organizer with Lisa, and Lisa's not with us. She's moving into a new house today, which is exciting. And let's see, I am published author and CEO of Plot Duckies. And I am really happy to be here today to introduce our speaker. And I know that there's tons of people out there in the same situation as me, because this house was really lonely. So I went and adopted a dog just last week. Say hello. Hi, Bo. He's like, whatever, leave me alone. But for those of you out there who have a dog, and like my dog is almost perfect, like so close, but he does have some issues. And so working with a trainer to figure out what I can do to help him be a better dog is huge, I think, right now. And so I want to introduce Jen. She is a dog trainer, and she's going to tell you her story. But I am glad to have you available, Jen, online, because just having a conversation with you eased my mind a little bit. And we're working together a lot better. So I am going to share my screen, and you kick it off any moment that you want to kick it off. I'm handing you the microphone.
All righty. So I'm Jennifer Hunt. I have been training dogs professionally for about 4 years now. And before that, I worked at the shelter in Albuquerque, and I was running the Shy Dog program there, as well as serving as an animal handler and adoption counselor. So I got to have my hands in many, many different pots, and I learned a lot about dog behaviors through that time. It was a really good way to get a lot of attention or a lot of experience in a small amount of time. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And also today I have my very sleepy companion, Maya. Come here. Come here. This is Maya. She was sleeping in my lap. So she's one of the reasons I became a dog trainer, because she is a very nervous dog, and she would sometimes get very upset, and I had to figure out the best way to help her be happy, because even though I didn't know she was that nervous when I first brought her home, of course, I already fell in love with her, so we had to figure things out. So I understand most dog trainers come into this as being just your normal everyday dog owners, and then we bring home a problem dog who makes us become more experienced. And some of us develop a passion and get very excited about it and want to keep learning. So through this process, I kind of came to the conclusion that learning how to be more creative and patient with my dogs was also helping me with myself and with my husband and with my child. And so it really seemed to me like this process was the perfect example of karma. And so at some point I was like, let's just name a company Karma. I want to do this. I want to teach other people how to be more patient and more creative with themselves and their dogs. That's what the world needs, is more of that. So let's see if we can keep encouraging that. I know it's made a big difference with me, and it is still an ongoing journey, but hopefully as I continue my dog training journey, that will help me with the other areas of my life too. So next slide.
Next slide.
Okay, so I founded Karma Canine because there is always room for more positive dog training in New Mexico. There is still quite a lot of the traditional dog training, and that becomes a problem because that actually builds more fear and more problem behaviors that then the positive dog trainers are called on to fix. So there is always room for more. There's not a problem finding clients around here. Also, I wanted to have more customized training plans. If you sign up for an average dog training course in Albuquerque, then it's going to be a canned curriculum. You learn these 5 or 6 behaviors, and then you go on your way. And traditional obedience is not what most of us are looking for in a pet. Most of us are just trying to get through the things like the jumping and the barking and the peeing on the floor. Most of us just want a peaceful relationship with our dog. So having a flexible and customized training plan is very important to me. And with me, you get one-on-one training. So I have, since I founded my business in October, I have managed to form a partnership with my local vet. She is referring me to her clients and handing out information pamphlets for clients that have my branding, as well as some very helpful information that I don't mind giving away for free because it's the kind of information everybody needs. Things like, all dogs do this kind of chewing. Here's things that are behavioral characteristics that go with the age. So we should all just realize this is part of what comes with my dog. Ways to enrich their lives and improve them, keep their mind stimulated so that they are happy creatures. My little friend here is a really good example of what happens when you keep a dog stimulated. She's made it through, I can't tell you, many, many years since she has last bitten somebody. And so, yes, sometimes the behaviors get pretty out of hand if we don't know how to address them. So it starts with the small building blocks of stimulating their mind. And since October, I've also started doing the virtual dog training. And if you were here for my last presentation, I know I was still figuring out the logistics of how to do it and if I wanted to do it. And then we got on a shutdown, and it was definitely, we're going to do this. And so in the next slide, we discuss some of the ups and downs of that. So in normal everyday times, my business plan is to do in-home training, private behavior consults. I have packages for 4, 8, or 12 weeks. I find that it's easier to sell a package and help my clients understand that all of this is a process. If we do a single session, it's going to be basically an introduction to a very simple concept, something that you're able to keep maintaining on your own, or something that we can build on in later sessions. So already having my package pricing can help make people realize this is a long-term investment. Your dog's well-being is something that you're always working with. And I also run workshops out of my home. So I love getting my local community to come over to my house and we will discuss common dog training problems. And finally, I get money based on virtual dog training. So I can do either in-home training or group classes through the Zoom format, just like we're doing here today. But so far, I have been primarily focusing on the one-on-one. That's, to me, always preferable. Group classes are beneficial because we can keep the price low, and a lot of us are dealing with very similar problems, but I also really love the customizability of one-on-one. So that's really fun for me. So the changes with COVID-19, obviously going exclusively to virtual training, that has been a challenge because people don't always think this is something you can do through a screen, but through my little helper here beside me, she's actually very, very driven to train. And so I can pretty much shape her behavior and demonstrate any behavior on my side. And then my client can imitate on their side. So the difference would be between me being in real life, I might be able to say, you know, maybe I should try doing this myself and demonstrate with your dog how I might problem solve this. But through the screen, how I'm going to change that is I'm going to say, okay, I want your hand to be at your dog's head height, and I want you to slowly bring it back towards their spine. So I'm using physical attributes that you have available to you to show you where I want your hand to be, and that's making a big difference. So I've also been using some of this time to focus on continuing to build my new business through search engine optimization. I've been writing a blog. I've been studying as many webinars as I can on how to improve my teaching strategies as well as the technology of doing online teaching. There's some really experienced dog trainers out there who've already been teaching online for a very long time, so I'm taking their webinars. I did update my logo. I just changed the font, little tweaks that might not have been a really important aspect a few months ago. I just found this is a great time to do that. And I'm working on creating more information sheets, things that I can hand out for free, 30-minute training or 30-second training session. Here you go. This answers some really common questions for you. And so being able to hand that out to people is really helpful. So my current challenge is marketing to complete strangers online. I still am depending a lot on people that I know to refer me, friends and family, and my fellow trainers who have overflow. So that's really awesome, and I appreciate every one of you guys, but I still need to find out how to meet completely new people. Eventually, my friends and family are all going to have really well-trained dogs, so we need to find some new friends and family. So I have run a few Facebook ads, but I haven't gotten any results from that, and I wouldn't mind some different advice on making my ads more effective and finding new ways to just move beyond those referrals with my friends and family. And that's Karma Canine. And here's my old logo. The first slide has my new logo. I can't believe I forgot to update this one too. That's kind of funny.
You're all...
I
Cool.
like this font. So yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to open the floor for questions. First of all, I'm going to ask Adam. Adam, are there any questions on YouTube at the moment?
Yes, we have Jason Goldberg asked, is us staying at home on this level good for our dogs?
Actually, it can be, and sometimes it's not. So it really depends on a few different aspects. If you have a dog who is under 6 months, then you are still in the prime socialization period, and having you home all the time means they're going to have trouble adjusting to you leaving again when the time comes. So if you have a young puppy, it's advised that you actually take daily walks without your dog or go for a drive. Do something every single day without your dog so they understand you coming and going is just a normal aspect of life. And continue finding new and creative ways to add something strange to your dog every day. So one thing our puppies can get into the habit of is everything's familiar and everything is steady. So the first time something strange comes in, like, you know, a new noise or a new smell, then that can be extremely alarming. So one thing that I enjoy doing in my in-person training classes is I have one of those dancing stuffed animals that's a turtle. And things like that, by playing this silly dancing turtle, that is so completely unusual. They don't run into dancing stuffed turtles every day. So we help our dogs learn to cope with something as strange as that, so that when you go back out in public and go to the pet store and there's some little kid screaming on the floor, they just see this as another dancing turtle. So that's what we mean. When we say we want to socialize our dogs, it's exposing them to every strange thing we can. And if you are like me and have a foster dog who has not had exposure to these strange things during the prime socialization period, which is before 6 months, my foster is about a year old now, and it is a lot harder to figure out new ways to expose this dog to stimuli without terrifying her. So what I have to do with her is break everything down in itty bitty little steps. So instead of pulling out the dancing turtle and poking the button, I'm going to start getting her used to other stuffed animals and other toys and just everyday processes of living in a household with normal people. We are not normal. But at any rate, living in a home as a pet for some of these dogs is not something they grew up with. So if you have a dog who is like that, then we need to figure out new creative ways to give them those unusual stimuli so you can go back out in public. And if you have a dog like my friend here who is currently napping on the bed next to me, she is already used to me going away to work and shopping and whatever for so many years now that it's not going to be terribly upsetting for her to go back into this new system when I go back out into public again. So I'm not too worried about well-socialized dogs who are very comfortable with their people. To them, this is just a vacation. Yay, I get to hang out with my person. We don't have to worry about getting our daily walks. This is the bee's knees. Please continue. You know, they've all experienced us going on vacation before and having our schedules change. So having our well-socialized lovey bugs here, that's not hard at all.
Cool. So the short answer is just go out every day for a few minutes and maybe make that a little longer each day, just so they get used to the idea of us leaving home again, right?
Exactly. Yep. I'm really good at the long answer. I should hire you for the short answer.
All right. And I believe Charles has a question he wants to ask.
I do. So Nicole Taylor is a pet
Nicole.
sitter. She owns a pet sitting company in Albuquerque. I'm wondering if you've considered partnering with someone like that because, she has this pretty good audience of people that would actually be able to use your services, and you have this audience of people that could use her services.
That's such an interesting question, Charles. What's your answer to that, Jen?
I do find that interesting. So Nicole and I have done some tentative partnerships. She has talked about me to her clients, and I have forwarded many clients over to her. And that's been pretty beneficial in this slow time when it is a little bit harder because she depends on house sitting. So her clients need to actually leave home to require her services.
Right.
But I can refer people who need help with their dog walking, and that is another service Nicole offers. And of course, whether or not people are home and have a normal everyday habits going on, everybody always needs help with their dog. Sometimes, in fact.
You guys also did an event together, didn't you?
We did several years ago. and we do need to do another one. That might be a fun way to kind of break out of our shell when the shutdown is released. We can plan another event. That would be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's
Very cool.
yeah. Okay, so and then Paul has a suggestion.
Yeah, so good morning. So my suggestion is that people are most interested in dog training at a couple of points in their time with getting a dog. One is when they first adopt the dog. So I think the suggestion would be to cultivate relationships with the people that are adopting dogs out. So the pet shelters and other people that are providing dogs to people. And I really encourage people to get a rescue dog instead of a purebred. And of course, the other time that people want advice about dogs is when they're seeing the vet. So if you cultivate relationships with a couple of vets, and your name is just in their mind, and when people come in for a wellness check and they ask how it's going on, and everything's fine except the dog is chewing their slippers or misbehaving in some way, you are in their mind and you're the person they could suggest for help. So think about it not so much in terms of Facebook ads, but in terms of cultivating relationships that are people who are talking to people who are just getting dogs or who are asking for advice about dogs.
Yeah. So I do have the one vet so far. I have been communicating with other vets as well when I was able to go out in person. And so it's a little harder to do that because understandably vets and shelters don't want to be spammed with constant advertisements or, hey, can I help you? So it's easier to, at least for me, get to know them and get to know their needs. And one of the ways that I've been hoping to do that was just doing regular visits with them. It's considered good policy to actually set up an appointment where you do pay their visitation time like you normally would, but just to have their time to talk to them. And that way they feel like, well, I can relax and talk to you for 30 minutes because you've already paid for this block of time, so I'm not worried. But right now, the vets are all extremely stressed because they are understaffed. Not everybody is able to work. They're sending people home if they have the slightest little sniffle to make sure that they are being safe. So just getting my dog's staples removed from her surgery on Friday is turning into this really big event because they don't even have a vet available. Where because she had a major surgery, normally they'd be doing a recheck. We're lucky to get her staples out. So right now it is very difficult to find any kind of vet with time, and the shelters are also doing as minimal as possible. I do still have connections in the shelter from my time there, and unfortunately, I have found out that so far people, instead of working 40-hour weeks, are working just 2 10-hour slots, and that is it. So they're also minimal. So the reason I've been focusing on Facebook ads is because right now in person is so difficult, and the primary outlets I would be looking to for relationships are all very stressed out and frazzled. And I don't know how I can help alleviate their stress so that we can cultivate a relationship.
Actually, I'm kind of curious because when I went to go, first of all, right, they're only doing appointments to get an adopted dog. And so I went to meet some dogs. And when I picked Bo here, they handed me some papers on a few different things. Like, couldn't they just hand a list of local trainers to people from the shelters? Like, they didn't do that, but could you suggest that they do that? Like your name at the top?
Of course. So I'm thinking about the best way to do that would be calling them. If I call them, I need to get somebody with the power to actually change rather than the peon at the bottom. I was one of the peons, so I mean no offense. But yeah, getting up to the person who has the power to make the changes can be what's hard. So I usually focus on talking to the peon. That's what worked with my local vet is I talked to her staff so often that when they had the staff meeting, they all said, hey, what about that dog trainer who keeps coming around and talking to us? You know, and so that conversation got started.
Right.
So that's what I've been focusing on, but it's so much easier for me to talk to people in person. It's a little easier for me to instruct people on dogs than it is to build a completely new relationship all based on digital.
It makes sense to me because you'd think that they would already be doing this by handing out a sheet that says, here's some dog trainers that can help you if you have any issues with your dog, that people are going to keep their dog.
Yeah.
And be less stressed out if something goes wrong with the dog. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I am working on making more and more of those info sheets, because you hand out, you know, common problems like all new dogs chew. Okay, here's the information sheet that tells you some of the reasons why and some of the things you can do about it. And then my information is also, of course, branded on there if they need more. And so that is the goal behind presenting those, because then I can hand them out, whether I'm doing a little booth or at an event, or whether I'm visiting a vet. I can say, here's the stuff that I'm willing to provide to you if you guys are interested. They're more interested a lot of the times in handing out information than they are just business cards.
That's a good point.
They don't know who you are.
They did hand me a sheet about crate training, and it was obviously that they printed it right off a web page. So if that's a brilliant idea, like writing something comprehensive up about that and giving those printouts to the shelters, and they can hand those out instead of this stuff straight from a
exactly.
Right. Straight from a website. Yeah. So that's a brilliant idea.
If it's from a website, then if they need follow-up information, there's nowhere to go except for to try to find another website.
Exactly.
And there's so much contradictory information out there that it can be overwhelming for new dog owners.
Yeah.
So that is one of the reasons why I've been also taking the webinars, because that gives me a lot of creative new ideas that I can use to flesh out my business.
Okay. I have one more question specifically about your business. Do you have an email marketing program plan?
Not really.
I thought not, because
like a
you should have signed me
newsletter?
up. You should have signed me up for some email like the day I hired you and said, I need to train my dog. So we'll have to talk offline about your email marketing plan.
Okay, that's definitely outside my comfort zone, which is probably what I need to hear.
Adam, you had something from YouTube?
Yeah, Miriam had mentioned that she would make those sheets download PDFs. Downloadable.
Okay.
Have you done that before?
That's excellent.
I would go further than that.
Not.
And I'd say make a nice trifold. You know what I'm talking about? So like if you go to any of the tourist information places in New Mexico, there's a kind of standard format where you fold an 8.5 by 11 sheet into a trifold. And there's a nice display page that's the cover. And then the back cover is your contact information. So you have several of them, you know, one on chewing, one on, you know, peeing or whatever. And then your information's on the back, but there's nothing like glossy paper. And if it's a trifold, it fits into a display rack. And if you put that in the vet's office, the vet will be really glad.
So I'll tell you why I went to what I'm calling the information sheet, which is the standard 8 by 11 two-sided. And I started out doing the brochure. And as you may have noticed, sometimes I get a little bit too wordy. So trying to fit all of that information into the brochure format's a lot more limited. The spaces are narrow. You're wasting a lot more space as far as information goes. And so
Huh.
finding a balance between the right amount of information, I don't want to just put such short amounts of information, you don't really learn anything from it. And I'm still having to break it down into a smaller amount of information. Instead of giving you a book, I'm just giving you a two-sided sheet. So I'm sticking to a format that's helping me limit my babbliness. But
Well, just
yeah,
FYI,
I made, go ahead.
well, just FYI, if you need to work, my background is as a technical writer, so you and I can work together on reducing the babbliness.
Well, you know, the thing is, you're
Okay.
really fun to listen to, and you know,
That's true.
you're very confident when you speak. So even in a trifold, you could put a QR code in there and link it to a video,
Oh,
right? And so
now
then the
that I didn't
trifold
occur to me.
is the bullet points, right? Just like people do it a really quick read, you know, is there something I really need to know? And then for more and to meet the person who wrote all this and to build a relationship, there's a QR code, they shoot it with their phone, they go straight to a video, and there you are talking.
I like that.
Yeah,
I can
and
definitely see how that would help.
that is a pretty good insight. Also, Miriam had clarified too. She's like, Paul, the reason that I was doing that was so that she could use it as a Facebook post and make it online.
Oh, okay. So not just have something printed, but have something available online. Well, and my thing would be if you created an email marketing list for people who want to keep knowing how to train their dog, you know, you could create this fantastic document, but they have to sign up for your email to get it for free. And then you have them on their email list. They can discontinue if they're not really interested in the emails. But the people on your email list who are interested in getting more from you are going to be the people who are going to hire you again in the future or refer you to someone else in the future. FYI.
Are you thinking that maybe there's
Sounds
something
good.
like I've heard it called like a funnel or a tube, and you
Yeah,
have people
it's the
come into a
funnel.
thing?
It's the funnel. Yeah, we'll talk about the funnel, Jen.
I have seen the funnel. What was it? Was it 1 million brews? I know I went to an event where we actually discussed the marketing funnel.
Ah,
And I know marketing is my weak point. I can talk dog training until I turn blue, and it would be great. But when it comes to grabbing new people, new victims into my web, I mean, this is all such fellow entrepreneurs, not necessarily my clients, right? They
yeah,
might run.
right. Well, no,
Just,
yeah, we can talk more about that.
just talking your
Okay,
jive is a way of marketing.
that's true. Maybe try not to be psychotic when I do it, but as most of us are finding, that's getting harder and harder with us staying at home. We're all going nuts.
Tell me about it. Huh. All right. Do we have any other questions for Jen? Oh,
Have you found anything, and maybe I hope I didn't miss this because I was paying attention to something else at the time, but have you found anything during this learning from COVID-19 time? Have you found anything particularly enjoyable?
So what I have enjoyed the most was my Extreme Fear in Dogs course. I'm very passionate about that, which is why I'm fostering a dog who is extremely fearful. She's my little personal tutor. So we can go through all ups and downs together, and having her in my house is definitely a different thing than working with them in the shelter as I used to. So that's great. I also signed up for a 5-day intensive course on marketing and improving my virtual dog training business, but I have not started it yet because unfortunately I was having problems logging in. So I had to wait for them to get back with me on that. But I do believe in learning all the time. I actually set aside quite a large portion of my income just for that. So my business is paying for my continued ed. And I try to always have something I am working on learning, both for my clients' benefit and my own, because there's never an end to how much we can learn.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jen.
Can I
Now I have,
can
oh,
can
sorry.
I add one more thing too? So I just want to give a bit of feedback on your marketing funnel with Facebook. One of the things that we found to be super effective is to actually drive a bunch of traffic to your website using something like Google Ads instead of Facebook. And then what you do is you add, it's called a Facebook pixel on your website or the landing pages that people are going to. And you want to do a remarketing or a retargeting campaign on Facebook. So the idea is to get a bunch of people in using Google and then leverage that audience, if you will, and retarget them on Facebook, because depending on their behaviors, they're more qualified or more invested in what you have. So really, Google becomes the top of the funnel where you're just bringing people in. Facebook becomes the conversion, later conversion steps of the funnel. So I hope that helps.
Yes, I wrote all of that down. I'm taking notes from my suggestions. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool. All right, Jen, my next question for you is red or green?
So I like strawberry margaritas, which are red, right?
That's a terrible answer. No, I'm just kidding.
And technically you could say that the regular margarita with the lime is green. And so I like both.
Actually, I am totally a strawberry margarita.
Wonderful.
I am a totally strawberry margarita person too. We'll have to have some margaritas after, this whole quarantine or self-isolation thing is done. Meet up for some margarita.
Heck yes.
All right.
All of it.
What can we, the community, do to help you out?
I think the community can keep working on supporting each other and not going completely nuts, but keep fostering and adopting all of those lucky pups out there who need all of that support.
Aw, good idea. All right. Well, thank you, Jen. I think,
Thank you.
No problem. All right. I think now we're handing it over to either Eric or Paul.
Well, let's see. So yeah, Paul, let's go for it.
Okay, so one of the things we like to do back in the old days when we were having Million Cups face to face is we have events, and we looked around for what we should do this time. And what I thought would be appropriate was shout outs. So normally what you do in a shout out is you have 45 seconds to thank somebody or acknowledge somebody outside your company that's being a help to the community or to you in your progress as an entrepreneur. And I think shout outs are especially appropriate right at the moment, because I see a lot of people frustrated at what's happening and kind of feeling helpless at the same time that they're seeing these stories of all these heroic frontline healthcare workers and first responders. They feel like, maybe they're not lifting up society as much as they could. And so I'd like to give a shout out to one group that responded really creatively to that frustration. And that group is the R4 group, the Rio Rancho Robot Runners. And this is part of a STEM program for middle school and high school students. And what they did is they have built 3D printers on their own, and they have quite a number of them. And they got plans that they downloaded for the plastic part of a face shield that's not the clear part. And they have been 3D printing those like crazy. And if you get a transparency film for an overhead projector, cut it and punch it and attach it to that, you now have a face shield. And they have personally delivered hundreds of these. And they have connections, for example, with the Navajo Nation. And when they showed up there, they were told they were the first people to show up from the outside with any assistance with respect to COVID-19. So if it's still in my paste buffer, yes, it is. I am posting I just posted a set of links in the comments. First is to a news story on KRQE that has a bunch of links, which I also duplicated. One to Be Greater Than Average, the parent group for STEM education for middle school and high school students. R4, the Rio Rancho Robot Runners, their face shield project. And there's a donate link on PayPal. So they're going through a lot of filament, and they could use a little bit of extra in their cookie jar to keep doing the good work. So they've delivered face shields that they've made to the Navajo Nation and to several hospitals. So they have delivered hundreds of these to each recipient, and they're keeping those 3D printers running 24 hours a day. That means that they have to tend them every 20 minutes or so they sleep by their phones, and the beeps wake them up, and they tinker with the printers. So if you don't feel like you're doing enough, there's certainly a group there that's doing way more than their share, and they could use a little help or encouragement from you. So that's my shout out.
Wow.
We'll try to share that through our various different channels. We're going to grab it from the Zoom chat here, but also put it over on YouTube. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Lexi Bosey, who many of us on our
That
team.
was gonna be
Oh,
mine.
yeah.
Oh, wait a sec. So, well, I'll give my angle, and it's basically the virtual tip jar. Is that what you were looking at? Something completely different. Fantastic. Well,
Eric, you're muted.
I was like, oh my God, my sound went off. What happened?
what is going on?
Okay, now we can hear you again.
Oh, that's weird. I don't know how or where I did that, but yeah, so to recap whatever the heck it was, I think I was saying, Lexi Bosey, she set up this virtual tip jar since our various servers and, bartenders, coffee folks, all sorts of folks in the restaurant industry have either been, laid off, or they're certainly not getting the income that they did before. So if you want, in terms of keeping our community together and good, if you respect that, there's an opportunity to just kind of throw a couple bucks into a tip jar, and she's got a spreadsheet that's available. So it looks like I gotta use something with the link over on One of My Cups. But big shout out to her. Just saw an opportunity or saw a need and filled it. So big thanks.
Awesome. All right. Well, my shout out is also to Lexi, because she, through her marketing firm, High Tide, she's working with KRQE to connect them to local businesses that have things going on during COVID. And so through her, Plot Duckies is getting an interview for KRQE later this week. And then she also connected them to, let's see, Dovetail Community Workshop, which will be doing some online workshop training, and a bunch of other local businesses. So we're going to get some interviews on the news, which is amazing. So thank you, Lexi Bosey of High Tide Marketing.
I've got to shout out for Stay Connected, which is actually a branch of Active New Mexico, apparently. And they started this series on Friday mornings starts at 11. And they're doing this thing. You can find them on, it's not Meetup, it's on the other thing, event thingy, whatever that is.
Dude. All right, next shout out. You have to have your details ready, man.
Oh, I wasn't prepared. Anyway, I was just thinking about it, and they have a great interaction going on there where you can actually talk about business, and they've got some neat workshops that they do for like 1 hour.
Okay, but where can we find this? Do you know?
Eventbrite, I think, is the name of it.
Oh, okay, Eventbrite. Cool.
But Active New Mexico on Eventbrite. I'll look it up and post real quick.
Is it Active or is it Activate New Mexico?
Yes, Activate. You're right.
Okay, cool. Any other shout outs?
Well, I think I want to give a shout out to this is sort of maybe self-serving for 1 Million Cups folks, but for all the folks that have been trying to make the stuff work behind the scenes, like Charles getting us going for the first few weeks. And then Eric, with all your work behind the scenes, with all When we thought there was going to be no glitches with Zoom, and then we find all these glitches. The internet is a complicated place.
Right. Well, I do want to thank all you guys, because I know when this first happened, like that was a quick pivot, and I know I wasn't handling things very well when this first started, because I was like, what? I gotta stay home. So yeah, thank you guys for handling all that.
Good team, good work. Boy, well, are we ending early? Do any more final call? Any folks? If you throw it into the chat over on YouTube, we can put it on. We can talk about it on video.
Eric, why
Last
don't you
call, I
pitch?
suppose.
Why
What's
don't you
that?
pitch the virtual startup weekend?
Oh,
yeah.
I can pitch that. Yeah, I forgot. I threw it in the links, and I did not actually talk about it. So the folks at TechStars are they have been involved with Startup Weekend since the very beginning, or maybe in some ways Startup Weekend helped launch the thing that became TechStars. But TechStars is their global accelerator, do seed funds, and they're also working on building communities around the world. And what they did with April is they said, well, we're not meeting in person anymore. We're not doing these kinds of in-person events, but we know that we have perhaps one of the best networks globally for connecting and working with entrepreneurs of all different kinds. So they said, we're going to take April and make this a global online startup weekend to fight COVID-19. So there've been, over 20 countries around the world have already are participating. And I've seen some of the information or some of the work that's happened in India and I want to say New Zealand already. This coming weekend is where New Mexico, or not just New Mexico, the United States gets into the fight, along with Canada and Ireland and of course a few other countries as well. And so if you're interested in that, it's at startupweekend.us. But for those of you who don't know Startup Weekend, pardon me, Startup Weekend it's more than a hackathon. That's the thing that I've been thinking about for the last sort of night and day. Hackathons are great because they provide these solutions to, in a way, technical challenges. What's really important, and one of the things that I find different about a startup weekend, is there are those solutions that are being created, but it's also wrapped up and integrated with the need to find an audience, find a customer that's going to help create something that's sustainable. Too often in these kind of weekend long activities, you might create something, you might have some fun, but that thing that you create often doesn't have a life beyond that. When you're working and integrating this with more of an entrepreneurial process, you've got a real opportunity to get that out into the world and have it make a real difference in a sustainable way, potentially even grow a business. And we know we've got some faves in the Albuquerque and New Mexico community, like Trish Lopez, who started and grew a company that was based that came out of a startup weekend. So we know there's that opportunity, and I think this is a real neat chance for those of us who've been frustrated because we're on the sidelines and we looking for a way to contribute. This is a way where we can actually dig in, create something with other people and make a difference in the world. So Startup Weekend remote, startupweekend.us if you want to participate. Thanks. Whatever the heck that was. We got dogs.
So I just want to add on weekend, I signed up and you have an opportunity to donate up to $25 if you wish, but if you're strapped, participation is free. And it has the usual startup weekend format that people pitch ideas and form teams on Friday night and you work through the weekend.
Thanks, Paul. Any last, let's see, any last comments for the good of the order? Who's coming up next week? I forget. I know Lisa was working with them.
First Roof Care.
Yes. Excellent. So we've got presenters next week. Anything else we want to do? I always love a tour of other people's closets. So I think we're gonna close it up for the day, but appreciate everyone who's able to join us here on Zoom and also on YouTube. We're continuing to improve the experience ideally. So please let us know if there's something we can do to make a difference here in the Albuquerque community. And Thanks again. We hope to see you again at 1 Million Cups.